I'm going to sort of give you a bit of an introduction and talk to you about transition, really. Hopefully that's what you're kind of expecting to hear. So yeah, I'm here for a little while. I'm going to some different places. I haven't flown for 7 years, and that was a very intentional decision that was taken when I saw An Inconvenient Truth about 7 years ago. And I sat in the cinema, at the back of the cinema, and at the end of it, the list of things came up on the screen of things you can do now that you know about climate change. And I thought, those were some very minor and insignificant, really, given the scale of what I've just been told about. And so I decided to stop flying there. So all that you're about to hear in terms of transition and the network that is now active with people in 43 countries has all happened without any air travel. It's been done using the internet, all these different things. About 8 months ago, I saw a film called Chasing Ice. Anyone seen a film called Chasing Ice? I sat watching that film and I had a very similar kind of gut reaction watching that film. And it was around the time the world passed 400 past a million for the first time. And we were told by some of the friends of ours here in the US that many of the organisations that support environmental stuff here were on the verge of giving up. They were saying they give it a year, 18 months, and then any funding they put into mitigation around climate change, i.e. trying to prevent that from happening, they were planning on moving it all into adaptation. They were on the verge of giving up, a year to 18 months. That I couldn't see, and there was a catch in her voice when she told me that. And that's why I'm here today, really. That's why we've sort of, for the first time in 7 years, decided we need to try and see if there's something we can do to try and help that. So I'm really hoping that what we try and, that what you get from this evening is something that you can take out and use to really drive things forward here. And I hope I can play think over hard now. I've got to enter my password now. So slick, isn't it? Just so professional. Okay. I'm going to start with this picture. I enjoy this picture. This is a photograph. Can you all hear the back first? Yeah. Yeah, is that all right? Good, okay. Can you all see? Okay. This is in Northern Ireland, in a place called Belcoo, which is close to Enniskillen. And earlier this year, the G8 ministers held their G8 summit on a 5-star golfing retreat in Northern Ireland, as you do. And they landed at the airport, and on their way they were driven through this village of Belcoo. Now Belcoo has seen over the last few years its local businesses wither and die, due in some small part, some might say, to the policies of the G8. So the town High Street was full of empty shops, what a very sad looking place. And because the G8 were coming, some money was given to the council to spruce the place up a bit and make it look a bit nicer. You've got the G8 driving through, for heaven's sake, make it look a bit nicer. So this, what here, looked like a really nice local butcher's shop on the High Street, is actually an empty shop with stickers placed over the windows. And there's a bit of a clue in the photoshopped hands that repeat in the window. And you've got a very nice friendly butcher here waiting to welcome you into his photoshopped imaginary shop. How extraordinary, I thought, when I was reading about this. Because it really kind of captured for me that actually we're in a time where so much is changing so fast around us. I'm not about to go on and say, we really live in a new normal. But it's happened so quickly we don't really notice. We don't pause and say, that's not quite how it was a few years ago. So actually for me, these stickers really came to represent that. They're the kind of the denial that we feel we live in. It's much easier to just make some stickers and slap them over and pretend actually it's all right, than to really face into what we're looking at. And so what I want to talk to you tonight about is what it looks like when we don't sort of dash about in some kind of positive thinking, happy, clappy sort of blather. And we don't run around screaming and going, oh my God, we're all finished. But we actually look square into those challenges and do something about it. That we respond with a compassionate response. We respond by saying it's not about heading off up into the hills with 4 years worth of toilet roll and baked beans. It's about coming closer together with the people around us and seeing what we can do. That's where the response that we need lies. So I'm going to set out the 4 things that really underpin transition, the 4 things that really get me out of bed every morning and make me put my shoulder to doing this, and many of you as well, I'm sure. Over the last few years, the last 30 or 40 years, we've really seen a massive shift in terms of how our economy works and how the retail side of it works. I don't have a figure for the US, I'm sorry, but in the UK, it was recently announced that 97% of all groceries sold in the UK are sold through just 8,000 supermarkets. 1960, it was about 10%. That's sort of crept up, and that's happened. That's been a relentless push process which has driven small independent businesses to the edge of extinction. But we know from study after study that 3% that's left over of independent businesses are the ones that give our communities their resilience. Every dollar you spend in one of those shops creates $2 or $3 in terms of the amount of times it cycles and makes other things happen. The 97% economy is an extractive industry. It's sucking the money out and siphoning it off to headquarters, to shareholders, and often offshore, where actually in those offshore bank accounts sits enough money to put right all the challenges that we face, including that of the climate. But actually what's happening now in our leaders' obsessive push to make the economy grow again is that it's all focused on how do we grow that 97%? How do we build the right roads, make the right tax incentives, bring in the right investment, do kind of regeneration, which actually involves sweeping aside the 3% economy and making a huge space for the other one to just come in and do that. It's a really important thing. And in New Orleans, where I was a few days ago, this is from a study that looked at retail there. So there was one place that looked at 179,000 square feet, which was home to one single supermarket. They turned over $50 million a year, but most importantly, only $8 million of those dollars stayed in the local economy. The rest of it was gone at the end of every day when they cashed out. Another place they looked at had 100 independent businesses occupying the same square foot of space. They turned over $105 million every year, but $33.5 million of that stayed locally. It's what we need to get money to do is to cycle as many times as it can within our local economy, because that's where the resilience comes from. And I went to Spain last year, in northern Spain, in a place called Santander. And I went out in the morning looking for some breakfast for my kids who were still asleep, and I got lost, if I'm entirely honest. And I wandered into this place that was a market, the biggest indoor covered market in northern Spain. A place called Mercado de la Esperanza, the Market of Hope. And it was on 2 floors. The downstairs was all fish, all kinds of mad, extraordinary looking fish that I'd only seen in dinosaurs, some of them, tentacles coming out of their faces and everything. And upstairs was all fish, not fish, there was, bread and fruit and cheese and all that kind of stuff. But it occupied the same kind of square footage as a supermarket would in the UK for a town of that size. But rather than just being one business, it was hundreds of family businesses. Those stores had been kept in those families for generations. They lasted through energy crises. They lasted through 2 world wars. They were the resilient fabric, economic fabric of the town. That's what a local resilient economy looks like. It doesn't look like this. Tesco in the UK are the kind of Walmart of the UK. They aggressively spent the last 30 years surrounding all our towns with out-of-town supermarkets, which everybody said, don't do that, you'll kill the centre of the town. And it was forced on them anyway. And then when the town centre started to die, they then had the cheek to say, oh, we're going to build Tesco local, smaller ones in the middle of the town to revitalise them. Oh, well, thank you very much. And they recently, I was cycling on the other day, this lorry pulled up next to me, Tesco lorry, we love shopping locally on the side. I had steam coming out of my ears all the way home. I was twice as fast as we were. Just an absolute cheat of it. But this stuff can be co-opted by those people. So the second one of the reasons why we do transition is about growth. Sorry, I'm walking away, I'll come out here. Okay. So the second one is about growth, economic growth. If our children just kept on growing, and grew and grew and grew until they were out of the ceiling, we'd be terrified. And if the plants in our garden just grew, we'd be out chopping them down, and it'd be horrendous, like some science fiction nightmare. But we somehow imagine that our economy can do that. It can just keep on growing, even though we live in a world of finite limits, an economy can just grow and grow and grow and grow. And since the economic crisis in 2008, we've seen, generated by billions of dollars that we've created out of nowhere to try and make that happen. I mean, there's been a little bit of growth. But what is that growth? Well, growth of what? This is from the New York Times. So 50% of that growth has gone to the top 10% earners in the US. More than 20% of it has gone to the top 1% of earners in this country. It doesn't go to those like you and I. So when we talk about economic growth, it's really important to say, well, growth of what? Because generally, growth is a growth in economic prosperity, in carbon emissions, in resource use. And maybe there's a better way that we can do this. Maybe there's a better way that we can organise an economy. The third one is climate change. And the IPCC just published their report for you last week, which is confirmed everything that they confirmed before, and the scale of that. But the statistic that always really stays with me in relation to climate change is that of all the carbon that we know exists in the world, all the carbon that we could burn if we wanted to, we can only burn 1/5 of that if we're serious about staying below 2 degrees. Going above 2 degrees, we go into a world of massive uncertainty. We really don't want to go there. So if we're serious about it, we have 4/5 of those fossil fuels that have to stay in the ground. That's a really, really enormous challenge. That means most of the coal, about half the oil, half the gas. And this is from a book that really captures that challenge. So these are all the fossil fuels that we know exist in the world. If we want to keep a 50% chance of not going above 2 degrees, which is like playing Russian roulette with half the chambers in the gun full, not odds I'm that keen on myself, then we can burn this much. I mean, if you blow that up so you get a sense of the scale of it, that's some of the oil, some of the gas, a little bit of coal. We need to decide. We need to work out what happens there. If we want a 25% chance of going over, which is maybe even that's a bit high risk, it's even less. That's a huge challenge. A huge challenge. As much as anything, because our pensions, our economy is based on the assumption that we're going to burn all of this. All those companies on the stock market who deal in fossil fuels, their price is based on the assumption that we're going to burn all of this. So what I'd like to try and set out tonight is actually a way, there's all kinds of ways that we can do that, and we can push that down, and we can get there. We need government to do stuff, we need business to do stuff, we need local government to do stuff, and there's the bit that we can do, and that's what I really want to look at simply. The last one is our dependency on cheap fossil fuels. Now, for me, it doesn't make sense in life to depend on something that you can't depend on. That seems ridiculous. It's a key vulnerability. If you design an economy based on the assumption there's always going to be cheap fossil fuels to make it happen, at a time when there aren't any cheap fossil fuels left, that's really foolish. So the sooner we can break our dependency on cheap fossil